We live in an age where technology constantly seeks to offer more personalized and private decentralized services. The very essence of our identity is moving towards an on-chain system presenting numerous challenges and opportunities. So in our digitally driven world, where the boundaries between the physical and the virtual world are being blurred, we see the XRP Ledger's role in this DID movement to be paramount. So joining me today, like I said, we have 4 experts in the field of decentralized identity who are shaping the narrative both in theory and in practice. We have Julio Santos, like I said. We've got Aaron, Anshul, and Julian. And let's go for introductions. Julio first.
Sure. Thank you, Jas. So I'm Julio, CTO and co-founder of Fractal ID. And over the past 5-6 years, we've helped hundreds of companies with identity verification, all of them in the blockchain space. And we've learned a ton, because this space is very particular, and it has very particular needs in terms of ethos, in terms of compliance, in terms of user base. And that's what's always informed what we built. And we're now launching the IDOS, which is a protocol for a self-sovereign data management, and it's the culmination of everything that we've been learning all these years. So I'm very happy to be here, very happy to be in this panel.
Great.
Thank you, Jas.
Welcome. Aaron.
Hey, I'm Aaron Sloup from the And Company, co-founder. And is a digital identity, obviously, and once you have one, you can begin to connect to anything. So connect to people, connect to places, connect to blockchains, websites, whatever. I started thinking about this problem a long time ago. I started a social network in 2004. That didn't work out so well, but apparently another network that started in 2004 did pretty well for themselves. Jury's out on how that did for the world. So I set that problem aside for a while, and then in 2017 started thinking about digital identity again. Met up with my co-founder, Dan Carroll, and we started this company. It was originally called Diem, D-I-E-M. We got a trademark for that, fortunately, and we also filed a long-shot trademark for the ampersand symbol itself, thinking there's no way we're going to get this. Fast forward to 2020, we're chipping away at the problem little by little. We get the trademark for the ampersand symbol. We have a trademark for a single character that's on numerous keyboards throughout the world. We're like, that's the thing, right? Like, literally a single character that connects you to things. Like, that's our brand. We're doing it. So we start switching everything over. And sometimes you get lucky. Another cryptocurrency needed a trademark for Diem. And so that helped accelerate everything we did from 2020 on. We're continuing to accelerate, and we're excited to start to share some of that with you all and with the world over the coming months.
Thank you, Aaron. Anshul.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Anshul Malhotra, and I lead the RippleX research team. Our R&D efforts primarily focus on 2 main areas. First and foremost, we are committed to enable XRP Ledger with cutting-edge primitives and features to empower our developers' community to be able to build innovative applications on it. So some of the initiatives along those lines are the native support for NFTs, the upcoming automated market maker feature, and the most recent and the topic of today's discussion, that is the DID proposal on the XRP Ledger. So the primary focus is to not just add another feature on the ledger, but actually address an existing gap that the existing solutions do not really provide right now. And the second area of focus is that we leverage advanced cryptographic primitives such as MPC, threshold cryptography, and zero-knowledge proofs to improve on the scalability, interoperability, and privacy aspects of XRP Ledger. And really exciting, some of the really exciting projects going on in that area, more to come on that later. But today, I'm really excited to be here with other co-panelists who I know at least are, if not more, at least equally enthusiastic and passionate about the topic DID.
Great, thank you. Julian.
Jas, you're so close. Hi, I'm Julian Vergel de Dios. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Heirloom. So we enable large enterprises and institutions to issue and manage decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials, as well as providing individuals with a wallet that allows them to hold those credentials and present them in a really easy and beautiful and user-friendly way. So I got my first taste of sort of proto-decentralized identity when I was working with a company back in 2016. We were working on a prototype to share medical records on the blockchain between insurance companies, doctors, and the patient themselves. And we kept running into this problem of how do you manage the access control and specifically the identity information that is shared amongst these parties. And we kept landing on a really unsatisfying compromise, which was like, it just has to live on a centralized server. So fast forward through one startup that I founded and then wrapped up back in 2021, I sort of jumped back into this world because of the NFT mania that was happening. I was like, oh, this is interesting. But then I noticed that the identity problem still hadn't really been solved. And that's where me and my co-founder, Nick, we decided, okay, let's look into the identity problem again. And we started to see like, oh, there's been a whole leap forward in terms of how do you actually think about a decentralized identity? What are the protocols you need? What are the data models that you need? All that stuff had been worked on over the ensuing 5 or 6 years that I've been away from the crypto space. And it just seemed like a really interesting place to go to. So then I decided that was the topic that we wanted, that was the focus that we wanted to take with Heirloom.
Great. Thanks, Julian. Welcome back. All right, let's start with the basics. So imagine a world where your digital identity is completely under your control, free from centralized authorities and institutions that dictate where and how your information is stored. So that's the promise of decentralized identity. So instead of relying on third parties, DIDs are like unique digital passports that you alone control thanks to the power of the blockchain technology. They're stored in a special digital wallet, and while they're connected to your personal details, those specifics are kept separate and private to you only. This is more than just a technology trend. It's a revolutionary step towards a future where each individual has true ownership of their online identity. So, to kick it off, Anshul, let's start with you. From your perspective, how has the concept of DID resonated with the vision of the XRP Ledger? And what's motivating its adoption on the XRPL?
Sure, yeah. So to give everyone a little bit of context, and I think David also alluded to it, we have recently submitted a proposal for community feedback to add native support for a standard-based self-sovereign decentralized identifier on XRP Ledger. And as Jas explained, this allows for the individuals and entities to be able to securely manage and share their identity information. The DIDs are obviously stored on-chain and contain metadata that links to the personal information that is stored off-chain. Now, to answer your question, in my viewpoint, the concept of DIDs, it resonates very well with the XRP Ledger's overarching vision of enabling an inclusive platform for fast, secure, and reliable cross-border transactions. And it's very obvious that towards a journey towards realizing this vision, there is a requirement for a robust and trustless identity framework. And DIDs provide exactly that. And on top of that, DIDs, the concept of DIDs, the core ethos of DIDs, that is to enable decentralization, interoperability, users' control over data, portability, security, privacy, everything aligns perfectly with the XRP Ledger's core principles. So there's a perfect synergy between, using DIDs, the standard DID, for implementing a robust identity framework to enhance and complement the applications that XRP Ledger excels at. To your second question, that is, what is driving the adoption? It's the demand. It's the demand from both the consumer side as well as the business side for secure and verifiable identity framework. So DIDs come in handy across several interactions on XRP Ledger for C2C, consumer-to-consumer interactions, consumer-to-business interactions, business-to-business interactions. There is a demand from the consumer side to be able to store and manage their data and share it on a need-to-know basis via selective disclosure of information. Similarly, on the business side, there is a demand for providing a better onboarding user experience while at the same time not having to be liable to store users' data, and at the same time being able to comply with the regulations that come with data storage and data sharing. And the beauty of DIDs is that it's very well positioned to provide all of that. And that's, I think, the primary motivation for adoption of DIDs, not just in XRP Ledger ecosystem, but in the blockchain landscape on the whole.
So Anshul, what are the standout use cases you're seeing for DID?
Well, anything that would require access control, that is authorization and authentication on Ledger, needs to use DID. Specific use cases would include verified payments, for instance, other DeFi applications, automated market maker, permissioned pools. You can think about participating in compliant and regulated pools, and more broadly, decentralized exchange. So I think anything that would require authentication and authorization would DIDs make a perfect use case for that.
Great. All right. So let's dive into some of the projects that are building DID right now. So Julio, tell us some of the use cases that Fractal ID are jumping into and some of the advantages you're seeing for DID.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just start with something which is what we are building is particularly interesting to me and relevant for a very, very specific reason, which is we're an identity verification company. And that means that we started our work by first mastering the boring work of identity verification. And we've been doing this for a long time, and we've learned a lot in that process. And I'm convinced that the fact that this is what we mastered first is why we're not now in this ever-expanding graveyard of decentralized identity projects that never actually went anywhere, because they might have had great UX, they might have had great technological foundations, and have been built with amazing intentions, but they were deserts, because nobody verifies identities. Identity verification is messy, and regulatory compliance is messy, and user support is fucking messy. But somebody has to do it. We did it. We got good. And that is why what we build actually has usage and adoption for a change. I think that based on, I'm an engineer, so for me everything is about trade-offs. And I've learned a lot of those trade-offs by serving hundreds of companies with their actual needs in the market of identity verification, rather than building a pie in the sky that I think looks great, doesn't actually map to market needs. So why is our platform, why am I proud of it? And for users, that is because it's self-sovereign. Your keys, your coins, your keys, your data. That is how it works. Your profile in the IDOS is what you want it to be. You edit it, you created it, you delete it, you share what you want with who you want for however long you want, and that's entirely under your control. There's nothing I can do or anybody else can do about that. You don't need to carry around an extra tool like a data wallet. So your data is online and available if you want to share it to somebody else. And for dApps, we encourage them very strongly with new mechanisms to never copy data. Instead, they can get an access grant to get access to this data in the future, even if the user is offline. And what that means is that we don't replicate honeypots everywhere. And the best part of all this, and of course it's rich coming from me, I suppose, but this is not a Fractal ID project. This is something that we're building with a bunch of other partners in the space, like Near, like Gnosis, and like Quill, like Aleph Zero. And we're building this because the space needs a common good, a chain-agnostic way to properly manage decentralized identities and respect the folks that use your applications. And so I think that it's really about actually having experience with how people in the real world consume verifiable identities and catering to that rather than hoping they come.
Great. Thank you for that. Julian, let's go over to you. Now, Heirloom has recently come out of stealth mode, and I understand you sort of mentioned a little bit early that you're venturing into the educational sector, and with a very fresh perspective on DID there. Tell us more of what you're doing and really highlight some of these applications for DID within this context.
Sure. Yeah, to Julio's point of not building things that people don't actually find use in, we dove into the education space specifically because it's an interesting microcosm of just the rest of the world, right? You have, if you imagine your life as a college student when you first arrive, you're issued a student ID, you're provisioned access to buildings, you're provisioned access to digital services on campus, you start getting grades, you start getting accolades. These are all things that roughly map to decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials. And so the very first obvious one that we went for, this is the first thing that you'll read in the W3C spec for verifiable credentials, is the degree. So it's a thing that the university says, Julio completed his bachelor's in computer science in the year, I'm not going to assume what year you graduated, and that's an attestation from one entity to say something about another entity, called a claim. But what was fun about when we started approaching universities about this was not only did we find that the degree was an interesting project in itself, but then we started finding all these different little pockets that the university found, oh, we can use decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials for blank. Some, like the three main ones that I find interesting are, that we've had traction in, are student clubs. So our first customer is the University of Southern California, and they have this rocketry club. It's a student-led group. They do projects together, but it's also very prestigious in that if you're applying for a job after you've completed your degree, like say at SpaceX or some other aeronautical company, you get a spotlight put on you if you're able to say, I was part of that rocketry club. So we've been working with these clubs to issue memberships to drive engagement on their communication channels, things like Discord. You can provision secure access to things like a Discord using our credentials. So that's the clubs. Next is actually the student ID itself. That one's actually really interesting because it's sort of like a daily use one. So we're working with the university right now to figure out how can we use the verifiable credential as basically your key to get into your email, to get into they use this software called Blackboard to manage all their documents for classes, where they get their grades and everything. How do you manage access to that using a verifiable credential? And then finally, the last one that we think is actually where we've been seeing the most traction lately is actually events. So in the United States, universities have sporting events. I know that's not really a common thing here in Europe, but in the US, it's huge. So you have American football games, basketball games. And what they're interested in there is actually so there's all kinds of stuff that's really obvious, like ticketing. You can use a verifiable credential for a ticket. But then they want to drive sort of fan engagement with those credentials as well. So it's like if you've attended a basketball game, then maybe you might be interested in attending a football game and getting a discount. You can use that verifiable credential to then transfer over and get a discount or something like that. And then conferences is the other one that's been interesting. So there's a bunch of university-led conferences where we've been running ticketing, we've been running access to communication channels again in Discord. That's another huge one that we've been seeing. And actually we were really excited to maybe do Apex this year, but we really need XLS40D for that to happen. But so yeah, we're excited there. But yeah, that's sort of in a nutshell what we've been seeing at the university space.
So as you were talking, then I was thinking about like beyond the campus.
Yeah.
Going out into the real world.
Yeah.
How do you see DID really reshaping the area of consumer trust and corporate branding?
So the biggest one that I see there, we always quote this funny stat that on LinkedIn, there are more Harvard graduates than have actually graduated from Harvard. So that's one huge area that we think that we can help, because universities have a brand. If your brand gets diluted by people misusing your name online, it dilutes your ability to say that like we're a prestigious institution. So in the LinkedIn case, where we would imagine this would work is if you receive your degree as a credential, you're able to then go independently from your university entirely, but in a cryptographically provable way to LinkedIn, present a proof and get a check mark on your profile that people can rely on and say, oh, I know this person for sure completed the requirements to get a degree from Harvard or whatever other prestigious university we're talking about.
What's the delta? How many people on LinkedIn say they have Harvard degrees versus or the multiple? It must be
can't remember.
multiple.
It's like 2 or 3x or something like that. It's something silly.
Incredible, right? We're going to start checking resumes in this week. All right, Aaron and the And Company. It's interesting. You guys are merging and tags and NFTs to empower users with ownership and control over their identities. Fascinating convergence from both the perspective of identity management and practical applications of NFTs and tokenization. So can you elaborate on your vision and the advantages that you guys offer both users and developers?
Sure. Yeah, so and is a digital identity, and tag is a universal handle to that identity. Because we own the trademark, there's only going to be one of these. So for each and tag, there's only one in the universe. That means you can start to use it everywhere. Social profiles, wallets, your email signature. You can write it on a piece of paper, take our app and scan it, and there's your profile, and people can connect with you that way. So these and tags are starting to become really powerful. So if you see on the slide over here, my name, that's not a typo. That's actually my and tag. You can search that, and it's already ranking #1 in Google. So that's going to become pretty powerful once you have one of these. And we have kind of 2 flavors of and tags. So the one you see there is a universal and tag. Those are free. There's a wait list for those right now. But we also have, where the rubber meets the road with NFTs, premium and tags. So that's like a first name or a number or a short word or whatever, right? We're starting to sign up brands to take over their brand. So those are kind of the 2 flavors. Every one of the premium and tags is backed by an NFT on XRPL. That proves ownership. That allows you to resell that. And all kind of the benefits of transparency and ownership there. But we wanted to do something special for all of you guys at Apex today. So let's all pray to the live demo gods here. We're all developers. So we have a few folks around here that have the And app already, that have installed it in the last couple days. So everyone that has it, go ahead and take it out. You're going to open the app, and then you're going to point it towards the sky and hold down on the And button. And you've just unlocked 3 golden tickets. You can give those golden tickets to anyone you want, and that's going to get people through the wait list so they can get their And tag right now. So if you saw someone hold up their phone and do that, make friends with that person like right now. So, and I'll be around today too, helping out. So everybody that's got golden tickets, help out a friend here at the conference. And we appreciate you all coming out to Apex.
Wait, do I release it at some point?
Oh, okay. So release it. Okay, I'll do it.
Yes.
Live demo. Look at that. It's working.
Right
Great.
on.
So Aaron, elaborating on what you just said, in the context of Web3, the concept of a pseudo anonymous identity is gaining traction.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on that and engaging in this pseudo anonymous ID in the decentralized web world?
Yeah, in the same way that you want to be able to prove things like whether you went to Harvard or things like that, there are also a lot of times when you don't want something to know who you are. Not for nefarious reasons, but just like you're on a shoe website and you don't need it to know everything about you, right? And that's sort of the world that we live in Web 2, but that can change in Web 3. So you go to that shoe website and maybe it knows the size of shoes, the type of shoes, and some other information like that allows the site to personalize it, but without it tracking your behavior forever and always. And so you could put something in your cart, or you could browse and look at a bunch of shoes, and that history could be stored anonymously with your pseudonymous identity. You could be doing that on your laptop, and then later you're on your phone, that same pair of shoes is still in your cart, but they still don't know who you are until you want to be known. You tap one thing, now you're known, you can buy the shoes, transact, get it delivered to your house, all of that. So there are a ton of cases like that where you can apply pseudonymous identity that allow you to be more private in the world, but also have things be personalized to you without it knowing who you are.
Great. Interesting use case. Thank you. Anshul, back to you. You looked surprised then. You were surprised.
I was not hoping for another question.
Look, as you mentioned earlier, the vast realm of DID opens up numerous possibilities here. But it's very dependent on robust underlying technology. So why is the XRP Ledger considered ideal for developing such decentralized ID solutions?
Sure. So I think we would all agree that the underlying robust and secure architecture of XRP Ledger and the time-tested network stability and a very dedicated community who's continually working on making improvements to the technology to make sure that the ledger can support more and more use cases provides perfect ground for DID implementations. First, and second, I think for the developers, this DID standard, since it's a standard, there is a very robust and dedicated community outside of the XRP Ledger community who is building, which is dedicated to building the tools, the expertise, as well as the infrastructure that can be used by the developers to build their applications across different blockchain ecosystems. So they can actually utilize this existing architecture and tools and libraries available to implement DID applications on XRP Ledger ecosystem, a framework that they are already familiar with. So I think it's beneficial for the developers community, both from the perspective of XRP Ledger's robustness, as well as the tools and libraries available for DID implementation to build on XRP Ledger.
Great. And there's a growing interest in integrating DIDs to enhance security and privacy. So for developers working in this space, what unique opportunities should they anticipate when constructing DIDs on the ledger?
I think it pretty much overlaps with my answers earlier. There is a perfect synergy between the concepts and the things that DID is very well poised to accomplish. That is the security and privacy, integrating security and privacy in applications, and the ethos of XRP Ledger, which is to provide decentralization and to provide use cases such as financial applications, payments, tokenization, all of that. So for the developers, I think there is a unique opportunity to build all the innovative applications that require authorization and authentication using DIDs, utilizing all the tools that are available out there for this interoperable DID standard, as well as the robust underlying XRP Ledger technology. So the core use cases of XRP Ledger that the XRP Ledger has always excelled at is also complemented and enhanced by this new feature, DID.
Great, thank you. All right, before we start hearing the Oscar music and we get pulled off stage, we've got about 5 minutes. So each of you in one sentence, summarize your thoughts on the potential of DIDs in the digital landscape over the next 5 to 10 years. And Julia, we'll start with you.
Oh, great. I mean, obviously I would say that, but I think we're at a pivotal moment now with decentralized identity. And that is because, most of our interactions have already moved online. That's the world that we live in now. And that opens up a tremendous amount of possibilities. But especially recently, we've become painfully aware of how hard it is to distinguish yourself from a bot, to distinguish yourself from an impersonator. And what this is doing is eroding trust in our communities, in our society, and it's making it very hard for us to coordinate, which is the whole point of blockchains. And so I think that as this problem gets worse, for us to be able to thrive as humanity, we do need a way where in this decentralized context, we can still rely on others knowing that we are who we say we are. So I think it's critical.
Great. Aaron.
Yeah. If I have to click on one more thing that says, click on all the motorcycles in this. Identity is individual. And because of that, there's an inevitable future that's already begun. Individuals will own their identities. It's what we're going to do with that that matters. And so, 5 to 10 years out, it's really hard to know what people are going to do with that. But I think one thing that's going to be true is right now, kind of in the Web 2 world, we all know we're being low-key manipulated all the time. And it feels kind of bad. So the kind of MO today is slight mistrust. Imagine what kinds of experiences, what kinds of things will be possible when trust is the baseline.
Great.
Yeah, +1 to all the things that you guys say. But I think by now we all agree that DIDs are very well positioned to catalyze a revolution across several sectors. But one thing I think that fascinates me the most is this fundamental driver that unites this transformation across several sectors, and that is that DIDs has this incredible power to reconcile the often conflicting demands between user control over their data and privacy on one hand, and the regulatory compliance requirements on the other hand. I think that to me is, and DIDs are very well positioned to harmonize these very conflicting demands. And that to me, I think, is one key and fundamental reason why this technology is going to revolutionize several sectors over coming years, over a decade or so.
Thank you. Julian, you got a sentence?
It's always fun to go last here because all the good answers are already taken. I think the biggest transformation that we're going to see, and it's sort of the 800-pound gorilla in the room, is what do we do about generative AI? And I think we're just at the beginning of seeing how that's affecting our online lives, and it's already destroying our ability to use SEO or traditional search in any meaningful way. So I think specifically decentralized identity is going to be very, very, very important in to Julio's point, in sort of distinguishing who is a bot, who is not, who is your authentic self online. But also interestingly, I'm curious to see what the synergy will be between generative AI and decentralized identity, because I can imagine a world where you have a generative AI that represents you online, and you can delegate your identity to that generative AI to represent you if you wanted to. And I think that's going to be a very interesting sort of interplay between the two technologies, and just a cool future. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Great, good overlay with all the AI work that's going on right now. Okay, so thank you, panel, for your insights. It's evident that decentralized identity will play a pivotal role in the future digital ecosystem. I thank each one of you for joining me on stage, and I thank the audience for your attentive participation. Until next time.